I think once upon a time, I really saw myself as a director, and like editing work was like this side thing that I did, and okay, I can make some money doing that, but like I am a director and that's it. I've really come to understand that directing and editing both really feed into each other. Film is a story told 3 times. It's written once, it's shot, and it's edited. Getting the chance to have other people see your work, to just feel the room and hear the responses as there's twists and turns and shocking moments, that's just incredible. It felt like we were really turning a corner. My name is Smagalski. I'm a television editor, and I'm the writer-director of To Die Alone. It's a survival thriller set on the Pacific Crest Trail. The first time I ever really got paid for film work was shooting these little like Kickstarter and Indiegogo videos for like little companies. And when I moved down to LA, I got a foot in the door to real estate work, to corporate video. It was absolutely amazing to be making a living doing work in film. I was like, this is the dream. This is incredible on one hand. And on the other hand, you're doing real estate videos. I just had this urge. I was just like, I came down here to make movies. And so I was like, I'm just gonna do it myself. We scraped together just enough money to rent a camera, get a few locations, and to feed everybody. And that was about it. But that film was Donovan Reed. It was a very fast process. We wrote, shot, cut that thing, I think, within a year and a half or so. I mean, it was very, very quick. It was everything I had hoped that it would be. I was actually on set, I was directing actors. We were telling a story. It was interesting, it was mysterious. That film actually went on to do pretty well. We premiered at the San Francisco Independent Film Festival. Through sheer force of will, we managed to make a feature happen. I'd never done a feature before. Everything I'd done was either shorts or short form material, which is just such a different world than long form storytelling. And so it was really this trial by fire crash course in how to make a feature. But we walked away with a movie that I'm proud of, and a lot of people did a lot of really great work on it. I had considered going to grad school for film. I sort of made the bet that just making one and putting it out in the world would be more valuable, and that was 100% correct. Film school is great for theory and concepts and getting introduced to movies you never would have seen otherwise, but as far as the practical, in the dirt, in the thick of it, there's nothing like making a film. Filmmaking in general is just constant problem solving, and I don't think there's any substitute for just real world experience, running into whatever issues are going to come up and solving those as you go. It doesn't just train you in the technical parts of film, but it also just gives you the sort of constitution that you have to make movies, which is the ability to do sometimes 12, 14, hopefully not 16-hour days, and to be constantly problem solving and trying to coordinate a group of people to create the thing that's in your head. It's sort of like a conductor with an orchestra. You're trying to get all the pieces and parts to deliver and to all sort of work cohesively as one thing. After Donovan Reed, I got my first opportunity to work in television. I did a little bit of assistant editing on a show called Immigration Nation, and then my first show that I was the first assistant editor on was an episode of Shark Week. I got to cut a little bit of the show. I impressed the showrunner with that. After that, I got my first editing job. I worked on a true crime show called People Magazine Investigates. I've worked on several different true crime shows. I've worked over at Discovery. I've worked over at Vice. I started building up the chops as far as being able to tell a story that was a full hour long, or I worked on a 2-hour TV documentary on Vince McMahon. These were opportunities to really work on that long form storytelling and understanding how to pace things, how to, build out different pieces and parts of a character, and how all of that kind of comes to pay off after a full character arc. As again, I got that urge of, I came here to make movies. I didn't come here to, do promos and documentary and all that stuff. I'm like, no, scripted movies. I started working on some new script concepts, and during COVID, when you really couldn't get together a big crew or anything like that, I started thinking about, well, what could I do with myself, a camera, a couple actors? Create a bubble, go out in the middle of nowhere, shoot something. I knew that it was going to be a survival story in the woods. As that story sort of grew, instead of putting myself on that really fast schedule, I really took my time with it. And I think that script for To Die Alone developed over about 2 years. And as I really realized what it was about, it really developed into this bigger thing. The big differences between Donovan Reed and To Die Alone, we really took the time to develop it, the time to put in the prep work, to really understand what the shoot was. We also did rehearsals, which was something we did not do on Donovan Reed. So much of the difference was really about the time time before the shoot, so that once we got on set, we all knew each other, we knew what the story was, and everybody was able to operate independently, knowing what the vision was. I think once upon a time, I really saw myself as a director, and like editing work was like this side thing that I did, and okay, I can make some money doing that, but like I am a director and that's it. I've really come to understand that directing and editing both really feed into each other. I think the more you learn about editing, editing is all pacing. It's all delivering on character. Film is a story told 3 times. It's written once, it's shot, and it's edited. The way the editing crafts the storytelling has informed how I direct, and then how I direct has informed how I edit. And so I used to be, oh no, I'm not an editor, I'm a director, but you can be 2 things. And I think those 2 really feed into each other. All that time that I spent cutting true crime and stuff, that really fed into, we were on set shooting To Die Alone, and I really understood, when we were up against it schedule-wise, and I was like, as an editor, I know what I need. There's a scene in the film that has about 6 different shots that we ended up shooting in like 10 minutes. And it was because I knew I need exactly this, exactly that will all cut together. And that actually ended up being one of the ways I really earned the cast's trust too. I would tell them, it'll cut. I know it'll cut together. For both of my features, I've ended up coming up to Northern California, and that's for a couple of reasons. I grew up in Sonoma County, and I also, again, grew up backpacking. I spent a ton of time in the Sierra Nevadas. I love those mountains. It's the most beautiful place in the world to me. It's just such a sort of powerful, almost like spiritual feeling. As soon as I knew I was doing a hiking movie, I was like, absolutely, Northern California. And we ended up picking Shasta Trinity because there was just so many different locations, so many different varieties that were all connected around the Pacific Crest Trail. I think that's one thing that Northern California in general has. You can find these different kinds of locations. If you want to shoot up on a mountain, if you want to shoot in the plains, the hills, the ocean, there's all these beautiful places that are just really close by. I also have a lot of friends and family who are still in Petaluma and in Sonoma County. On our kind of films where it's lower budget, every hand helps, and it's usually a friends and family affair. My latest film is called To Die Alone. It's about a thru hiker who ends up meeting a stranger, getting injured, and the story is really about the 2 of them trying to make it out of the woods alive. There's definitely some other stuff going on. It's got a little bit of mystery to it, but at its core, it's really a survival thriller that's about, both physical survival, but also emotional survival. The majority of it was shot in Shasta Trinity National Forest, and we shot in the forest for about 11 days, so it was pretty quick. But we definitely contended with the elements. Nature itself, it's a character in the film, but also it very much shaped the production. So we had like rains come through, and at a certain point we were like, we just have to shoot through the rain. There's one particular scene where there's some conflict between the 2 main characters, and then they open up to each other. Originally, the whole scene was going to take place as they're setting up camp, but it evolved into, because of the rain, the first half where they had conflict was in the rain as they're setting up, and then the second half was inside the tent as the rain's outside. And it actually created this really like intimate moment, and it changed the film for the better. Leaning into those elements and leaning into nature and leaning into the natural production value really did shape the film. The film just came out on Blu-ray and digital, so it's available on like barnesandnoble.com. You can get the Blu-ray or DVD, Walmart, Amazon. It's also available to purchase and rent on digital. Amazon, that's on Google Play, Apple TV, kind of wherever you buy movies online. The next project that folks will see from me is actually in post-production. We're almost done. We're doing voiceover here this month. It is a film called Save This Dog. It's a feature-length documentary that follows a number of these sort of new generation dog rescues. These rescues, they run almost entirely off social media, and everything from identifying dogs at risk of euthanasia to getting fosters to doing meetings to eventually getting them adopted. This entire process is done through this like network online. There's been, a movement of no kill in the US, which has made a lot of progress, but there still are a lot of problem areas, and California and Texas are 2 of the biggest offenders. The documentary really follows these 5 dogs who are going through these rescues, their process from getting pulled from the shelter and everything that they go through in order to get adopted. There's a surprising number of twists and turns. We ended up getting some really engaging stories that are really interesting. I am very, very excited for this one to come out. The goal is to have that one in festivals by the end of this year, and then going into next year, it'll be publicly available.